Hello, hello. Welcome to today's live stream. If you're like me and many other folks in content marketing and SEO in 2023, you are probably asking yourself, WTF? There have been so many changes, new things coming out. We've got AI and Chat GPT and SGE and HCU and all of these acronyms and changes and things that are, just changing up all the work that we do. Today, we're going to sort of take a moment to reflect on what has been happening in the world of content and SEO, what it means, what you should be thinking about, and how you should prepare for continuing evolution and changes. So our guest today is Mordy Oberstein. He's the head of SEO branding at Wix. He's also the host of his own podcast called SERPs Up. And an advisor to companies like SEMrush. So I'm really excited to have him join us today and kind of work through all of these big changes, what they mean, and what we should be preparing for. This is going to be a Q&A. So Morty has some slides prepared. We're going to talk through these topics at a high level. But if you have questions about these specific changes or the specific action items or trends or whatever it is that he's mentioning, ask those in the chat. We will definitely get to those either as we're going through it, or at the end, we'll have time for additional questions. Before we get into it, I have a couple favors to ask. First of all, please like our video here. It helps other folks find us on YouTube, or so they say. Secondly, if you have not already, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We host at least once a month. We have a live workshop, a Q&A. Super smart folks talking about content marketing and SEO topics. So subscribe there to get updates as we post new content and schedule new live sessions. We have upcoming sessions on topic clusters, as well as creating original resources, research reports, and some other great sessions already in the pipeline here. So would love to have you join us. Next up, I will just mention Top of the Funnel. If you're not already a member of Top of the Funnel, it is our free community for content marketers and SEO folks. We have over 2,000 marketers in there, in-house agencies, freelancers, sharing ideas, asking questions, sharing work opportunities, just all kinds of great stuff happening there. So if you are in this world of content marketing and SEO and you want to sort of connect with a broader community, stay up to date on all of our content, live sessions, resources that we share, this is a free Slack community. You can join it at yesoptimist.com/tofu. We'd love to have you there. And again, you can stay up to date on all of our upcoming sessions, pick the brains of lots of super smart people, including our guest today, Morty, who's a member of Tofu, and many others. So would love to have you there. Please join us. Okay. With all that said, I'm going to introduce today's guest. As I mentioned, Mordy Oberstein is the head of SEO branding at Wix, and just a super smart SEO person to follow, and he's been sharing all kinds of great information on recent trends and changes in the industry, and so I'm excited to have him on today. Hey Morty, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, man. I think I've been following you now for probably over a year on Twitter, and just seeing all the things that you share.
I apologize. I have things to say.
No, I was gonna say, I think one of my favorite things is that you are like sort of constantly trolling other SEO people.
I look at social as sort of like a brain break. So you're working, you stress. I'm like, all right, stress relief. Let's go on Twitter and troll somebody in a nice way, not like in a mean way.
Yeah. No, it cracks me up. Always makes my feed a little less tech bro, SEO bro stuff. So I really enjoy it.
Can I tell you my favorite troll story ever?
Yeah, please do.
So I don't know how it started. Oh, Barry Schwartz took a picture of himself, and like a before and after picture, and it was like no emotion, like full emotion. I'm like, oh my God, this is like perfect for a meme. So I started making memes out of it. And then everybody started making memes out of it. And I'm like, you know what? Let's put all these memes on our website. So I created a website. It's easy. I work at Wix. I spent like 3 seconds spinning up a website, right? I have a free coupon. I'll have to pay for it. Perfect. So I spin up the website, throw up all the memes there. And Matt McGee used to be over at Search Engine Lines, like, hey, you should get it to rank for his name. I'm like, that's a great idea. We should two birds at one stone. Like, I was like, oh, you can't rank a Wix website. Not only will I rank the Wix website, but I'll do it with no links. And for a long time, it got the featured snippet for Who is Barry Schwartz SEO, because there's another Barry Schwartz who was a psychologist. And to this date, it ranks like between number 3 and 5 for who is Barry Schwartz SEO. Greatest troll job ever.
That is impressive. I applaud the commitment on that one.
I was like, what are you doing? I'm trolling Barry. Building a website.
And somehow you get paid to do that too. That's amazing.
Basically, yeah, it's a dream job, really.
That's really cool. Well, I'm super excited to dive in today. As I mentioned at the intro, I think pretty much all of us have been like, what the heck is going on? Everything's changing. Is the world burning? So I think we can use this session to answer a lot of questions.
Cool. So I didn't do the whole, I'm going to create 4,000 slides, or I'm going to run through a whole bunch of slides and blah, 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 blah. So if you have questions, please ask them, because I'd rather have a much more of a conversation than just like me talking endlessly. Okay. Holy crap, there's a freaking ton to talk about. What's the future of SEO because of AI? And what does it even mean? Because there's really two sides of that, right? There's the SGE side. Google's offering us answers through AI, and what does that mean for organic ranking and blah, 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 blah. And then there's, okay, I created content with AI. How is the algorithm going to treat that? Then I think there's a whole bunch of other questions that come out of that in terms of strategy. What's Google focusing on? How are they going to handle it? And what does it mean for your brand, right? Step outside of SEO for a second. I was just talking to Nick Leroy about this early in the day. Nick Leroy's got a great website, by the way, plug for Nick, SEOjobs.com. If you're looking for a job in SEO, there it is. He didn't pay me to plug that. I wasn't even planning on plugging it. And we were talking about, talking about title tags and optimizing this and optimizing that and keyword research is not as interesting anymore to us. But what is really interesting is using SEO to leverage your brand, or how brand impacts how you leverage SEO. And I think that comes into strong focus because of the whole AI SGE thing. But I guess I'll do a little bit of a slide for this one. 1 second. Great. All right, so let's start with okay, what does AI mean for the future of search from the algorithmic point of view? And the question is, and Google's funny with this, right? Like Google, all right, let's see how to put this nicely. Google originally said AI content bad, like the old, SNL skit with Phil Hartman, fire bad. AI bad, not good. And then Google said, whoa, wait a second, a couple of things. Now, this is a conspiracy theory part of this, but all right, put on your tinfoil hats. They said, wait a second, this part's not a conspiracy theory. This part makes logical sense. We are developing AI. How are we going to, trash AI all day long and say, no AI, look at our AI. And that makes no sense. But also, I was just talking about this on Edge of the Web, another plug. I'm not plugging because I want to plug. I'm just plugging because I do too many things. On Edge of the Web news this week, I was in the middle of the podcast, and I'm like, you know what? You know why they're not trashing AI anymore? Because if they do, all of the evaluators who look at stock prices are going to say, oh, Google's not on board with the AI. Let's devalue their stock. So Google, I would put money on, sent a memo out to its public-facing employees, do not trash AI, and let's come up with a policy to be less trashy of AI because it's going to impact our stock price. Which is fine. I'm not like, I guess not a bad thing. It's just the world that we live in. So now Google's like, well, AI, we're not against AI. Danny Sullivan and Barry Schwartz got into it yesterday on Twitter, not in a bad way, but kind of running through this because Barry put out an article over SE Roundtable saying, oh, Google says AI won't rank by default. And Danny's like, well, no, we're not saying that. We're saying that we're not specifically targeting AI content. We're just looking at helpful content. But if you look at this is from Google's guidelines, and this I think is from the helpful content update. It says, are you using extensive automation to produce content on many topics? If that's not AI, then I don't know what is. So Google's saying Google says, no, we just care if it's helpful content. And then in their helpful content update guidelines, they say, are you using extensive automation to produce content of many types? 1 + 1 still equals 2 in 2023. So now Google won't say, oh, bad directly. They'll just say it indirectly, AI content bad.
Yeah. Can I jump in here for a second, Morty, and just pose a couple questions? Yeah. So first of all, I'd love if can you just define the helpful content update, give us a little bit more context about what that is for folks who maybe aren't super familiar with it. And then my question there is the context of this question is basically saying that it's on the wrong side of that update. Is that correct?
Right. AI content on the wrong side of this update. Even though Google won't officially come out anymore and say AI content is bad, if you read between the lines, and I'm not really reading between the lines here, I'm just looking at their guidance, automation, producing lots of content on many topics. Don't do that. That's not helpful.
Right.
I'm just reading their guidelines. So like publicly, their public people are saying, Danny Sullivan, who's their SEO liaison, is saying, no, we're just looking at helpful content. We don't care who wrote it. You could write it. Your mom could write it. The AI bot can write it. Anyone can write it as long as it's helpful. But then in the guidance about being helpful, they're saying if you use extensive automation, that's not helpful. Now, the helpful content update came around because if you look at most content on the web, and you're all content marketers, content writers, it's crap. Most of it is crap. I would say 99% of the web is just crap for a variety of reasons. A lot of it has to do with SEOs, which I'm not like that. We can go into, I think it's a fundamental topic that no one talks about, is the content incentive cycle. I don't know if I'm going to get to all my points. There's like so many tangents. Google can only rank quality content based upon what it's able to do algorithmically. So let's go back in the day. Back in the day, Google was saying, hey, you know what makes us unique is that we'll look at links and say that links are a testimony to your website. And then we'll be able to see if the content is quality if you have a lot of links, which is back in the day, it's called PageRank. Back in the day, that was novel. That was way ahead of Yahoo kind of thing. And Google is able to rank quality content. Now, it can only ascertain quality up to that point. Now, Google gets better at ascertaining quality. It can show better results and better results and better results and better results. But there's still a little bit of an incentive cycle. Google's like, okay, we can understand quality to this degree. So content folks and SEO folks, let's be honest, be like, all right, that's the bar, right? Google's ability to understand quality is the bar, and the bar is here. So that's what we're going to write. Now, users are like, all right, I guess it's just what web content is. That's the style. 5 easy ways to build backlinks. And they kind of get used to it for a while. And that's the content incentive cycle. What inevitably happens is Google gets better, but we don't, because we're still in the same incentive cycle until you start seeing chatter from the SEO community, for example, saying, oh, write better content, E18, and all that stuff, which we'll get into later. So then the bar of content goes a little bit higher. But what really happened is that people woke up. People woke up and said, this is crap. I think a lot of it has to do with like, Sundar Pichai and Mark Zuckerberg and all these people going in front of Congress. Now, Congress might ask some silly questions or whatever. But the net result from a branding point of view, and I love brand marketing, if you look at like tech as like from a brand marketing point of view for a second, the net result of that is people like my dad, who's not barely can use a smartphone, like, should I trust this thing and the stuff on this thing? And people started to wake up. And you actually saw a lot of articles in the New Yorker. I think Verge had a couple of articles. The Google results are getting worse. Parenthetically, I just saw an article in Search Engine Journal about AI results or AI content is getting worse. And the answer to both is that they're not getting worse. Google's only getting better, and AI content is only going to get better. Like the language models are they're learning. They're not like people. They can't like unlearn. They don't unlearn. They don't get like older and forget things. They get smarter. What's happened is that you look at the organic results, you look at what Google is showing you, you're far more skeptical now. And you're like, wait, this is not really what I thought was good 2 years ago. This is not good. So Google needs a way to say, okay, to try to get further ahead of the curve. And I think Google was ahead of the curve on all of this. They started releasing new sets of updates around circa 2018. They were calling them core algorithm updates, although core updates have been around forever. But there was a new series of core updates around 2018. March 2018 was the first one of this series. They still come out all the time. And Google was really trying to really get ahead on the quality side of things, using machine learning to profile results, to profile websites, to profile content, and to offer better results. But they're still behind, or they fell behind perception. For a while, they were ahead of perception. They fell behind perception. And now they had articles coming out that were anti the results. So Google's like, well, we got to get ahead of this thing. So they came out with multiple things. One of them is the product review update, which is now the review update. And I'm throwing a bunch of jargon at you, but I think we'll get to that later if all things go well, which I don't know if they're going to go well at this point. But what Google did was create the helpful content update. And what it's basically meant to get rid of ultimately or eventually, because it's a machine learning property. It's going to take time for it to learn. But it was basically, that you Google like, how do I do SEO? And you get like top three tips to build SEO success. And it's a bunch of fluffy garbage. It's meant to get rid of that. It's basically meant to get rid of like content that's just built for ranking, for getting keywords and ranking and whatever. Not content that actually helps people. So Google wants content that helps people, and it ran the helpful content update. And in the guidance for the helpful content update is this one line, which is probably the most important line on the internet right now, if I could be hyperbolic, because it's basically saying AI bad.
I love that. And I want to, if you don't mind me jumping in, Morty, I just want to mention part of the helpful content update is that it's also like a site-wide signal, right?
Yes.
So it's sort of evaluating the aggregate quality of your content, and then that impacts the ranking of any single page.
Read my mind. So what's unique about the helpful content update is two things, or maybe three things. One is, and this is not new, by the way, but SEOs have always said that Google ranks pages, not websites. Okay, but if anybody looked at an algorithm update and what happened after an update, you would see that it impacted the entire website. And Google has actually said this quality is across the entire domain, which makes very logical sense. Let's say I'm searching for who is the best baseball player, and I like baseball. I wouldn't search for that because I know the best baseball player is Yogi Berra, which is, we'll get into that later. It's a hot take. Three-time MVP, 10 times World Series winner, and founder of the most prolific quotes in history. If you come to a fork in the road, take it, is Yogi Berra. Anyway, it's getting late early out there. Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra is the best baseball player. But if I'm searching for who the best baseball player is, and I land on one page, and what you as a marketer, as an SEO, as a content person, you don't want them to bounce. You want them to go to the next page, right? So hopefully they're like, oh, I have a related article. That looks really interesting. And you go to the next page, and that page is terrible. So I went from Google to a page. That was a good page. And then I see a related article. I click on it, and I go to that, and that page is terrible. That's not reflecting well on Google. Why did you send me to this bad website? So Google knows that. So quality has always been a domain level metric. However, what's cool about the helpful content update is they officially confirmed it in their guidance. And they wrote, this update introduces a new site-wide signal, meaning they're looking at all the pages to see whether or not the quality of the site is good and is considered helpful. And they're doing it in real time, sort of, kind of. It's constantly evaluating websites. It's not like, okay, they press a button, it runs an algorithm update, and you're trapped in that trend until they rerun the update. It's constantly reevaluating, and when it hits a certain threshold of either, let's go to the negative, it reaches the algorithm realizes that maybe you're not good, maybe you're not good, all right, enough already, you're not good. And when it makes that decision, now it demotes your ranking, which, by the way, Google has said it's going to be very hard to recover from that. Usually with an algorithm, if you make the fixes, you can really improve the site. You can get back up. It might take months. But Google has said, like, it's not going to be as easy. So quality is across the domain, and they're trying to make sure that all of the pages are helpful.
And so if we can just put that in context for folks, I think the net or the takeaway here is, going back to the idea of using AI to generate content, and how that, again, is sort of on the wrong side of this update. Essentially, the takeaway is, if you've got really great content and it's ranking, and now you use AI to create a bunch of high volume, low quality content, that does what?
So that could theoretically impact the rest of the site. Let's say you have 5 great pages, wonderful pages, and you're using AI and you're creating non-helpful content, right? So it impacts the good pages. And that's like, it's from a content marketing point of view, or from an SEO point of view, the idea of, every page should rank, and if it doesn't rank, that doesn't have any value from an SEO point of view. Not true, right? Because it might not be a page that's, meant for ranking even, but it does help the other pages because it shows Google, like, it's a great page. That's a great page. That's a great page. No organic traffic to it, but it's a great page, and it'll help the pages that do rank. I'm in the wrong tab. Sorry. Okay. What's interesting, though, about the AI content, I wonder, let's just take this particular case. What are spark plugs? I know you could say, and you can, that I can offer something unique no matter what. And I do believe that. Like, you can always add something different, always make the content, your content, differentiated, always make the content, your content, better than the competitor's content. There's always something you could do. However, at the same time, this is maybe a little bit of a hot take, my personal opinion. What are spark plugs? What are snow tires? What's a muffler? That content's been done a million times over before. I'm not adding anything new to this conversation. And you know what? If I had a glossary, like car mechanics glossary, I had AI write definitions of what a spark plug is, what are snow tires, and what's a muffler, it would probably be fine for the most part. Caveat, of course, do not use AI content without first editing it. Do not take on an empty stomach. Do not take if you're taking the other medications. Do not take if you're on a mountain. Do not take if you're in the water. Always edit your AI content. But for the most part, it's probably fine. And I feel like I'll call it snippet level content. AI is probably very, very helpful. What are snow tires? Great, write that for me. Listen, all AI does, not even AI, it's just a language model. Okay. If anything, it's machine learning. And I was talking to Ashwin from Optimizer about this. It's really a language model. I mean, it's not even machine learning. It's true. It's a good point. It's probably fine. It's a language model. It's stealing all of the content from the rest of the web anyway and just regurgitating it, which is kind of what you want for this, right? Like, so fine, let it do that. Let me ask you a funny question though. Let's say, just argument's sake, I ask AI to write what is a spark plug, and you ask AI to write what is a spark plug, and we both get the same thing. Which page should Google rank? Funny question.
Yep.
The answer is the page with the quality website.
Right. Site-wide.
Site-wide, right? If my website is about Yogi Berra and your website is about car parts, even though I have a page about spark plugs for whatever stupid reason, you should rank because it's the overall quality of the website topically. So that's what I mean. Like, yeah, you might be like, oh, I'm going to use AI to write the content. Great. And maybe the AI, let's be fine. AI can write it in that particular case. But it can't write your entire website for you. It can't write all of the pages for you. And one of the things that's going to matter more in the era of AI is your entire domain. So if you're still looking at SEO from a page-by-page basis, stop. Look at it very holistically from an AI, from a quality point of view.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I think another thing that's going to matter a lot, this comes from the Google's page experience guidance, is usability. And people don't talk enough about this. I think as content marketers, we probably talk about it more than SEOs. I hope we do. But usability is a major, major differentiator, right? Again, if we both have the same content, forget AI, which we both wrote the same content, but I use headers and I formatted mine with bulleted, with bullets and tables, and you just threw it on the page. Mine's more usable. Mine should rank. Mine's better for users. Sorry, Tyler. Mine's better.
No, you would that one. I think that's such a helpful framework because I think, yeah, when you sort of extract away all of these things and you just think about, let's compare the exact same content on two different sites or two different experiences. That's where it's very obvious why some of these things are ranking factors, why they're only going to increase in importance. I think that's such a
and
good
AI
point.
Can't do any of that for you. AI can't make it more usable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to actually think about what's usable. Like, it all depends on who your audience is.
Right.
Like, so by the way, Google says, is the page designed so visitors can easily distinguish the main content from the other content on your page? That's a usability issue.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of now, like, what's going to come more in focus from an algorithm point of view because of AI? It's the fact that the domain is going to matter more because that's how Google's going to look at AI content where it makes sense to rank it, by looking at the domain overall, because it's all going to be the same crap, and usability, because again, that's going to be a way to differentiate websites.
Yep.
Cool.
So I want to jump in on some action items there, if you don't mind. But before we do that, I want to get to Finn's question, because I think obviously this is sort of the next logical question, which is, if we assume that part of the helpful content update is to sort of target sites that are let's say overusing AI to generate content.
Got you.
Basically, the question is, how will Google know, or will Google know, how will they determine what is AI content and what is not?
Super great question, Finn. It's an amazing question. And Google actually kind of addressed this. So there was a Search Live event, I forgot what they're called, Search Central Live event in Tokyo. And Kenichi Suzuki, who I love, super great guy. I met him. Wix had a dinner at in SEO. We actually met him in person. Shout out to Kenichi. He was covering the event, and Gary, I will never get his last name right, Ish from Google, was saying that the way they train their, listen, Google's been using machine learning since 2015. The first property that entered the algorithm was rank brain. There's neural matching, there's BERT, there's MUM to a certain extent. All these machine learning properties are baking in the algorithm. And Gary said, quote, machine learning based algorithms and signals are trained on human content, right? A content by humans for humans. They understand and promote natural content better. So one, like Google again is telling you in like not so many words that AI content is not really what they're looking for. However, like let's profile this for a second, okay? Google has something. I think I might have a slide on. As I'm like talking, I'll see if I do. I'm pretty sure I do. Hold on. I didn't use that example. All right, fine. Google has a product review update. One of the areas where Google really focused on was product reviews, because product reviews are notoriously spammy because a bunch of affiliates are stuffing in content so they can stuff in their links so they can make some affiliate money. So Google in 2021, I am terrible with the year, 2021, released the product review update. And what it went after was these low quality affiliate, thin pages that are offering really not helpful reviews. And one of the things Google says there is, and this we'll get to later, is experience. Have you actually used the product? And I always wonder, like, okay, how does Google know? Like, I'm reviewing a vacuum cleaners, okay? How does Google know if I actually use a damn thing or not? I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I used it. But wait a second. If you think about it for a second, right? If I didn't use something, I'm going to write in a certain style, a certain way. It's inevitable. I'll write, great vacuum, but not on carpets, right? I probably wouldn't even write that, but it's great carpet, great vacuum cleaner. If I used it, I'm going to write something like, it's a great vacuum cleaner, but I had a really hard time with pet hair on my carpet. The language structure is totally different. It's totally different. It's super easy to pick up on it. In fact, it's literally what machine learning is built to do, which is profile language structure. And it's how all of these tools that you have, a whole list of tools that you could throw the content in and you can say, hey, is AI write it or was it a human writing it? They're doing that. They're profiling language structure. And Google's telling you that they took content that they knew was written by people and they trained their machine learning to identify the language patterns that come out when you've actually have something written by a human. And that's how they know whether you use the vacuum cleaner or not. And that's how they'll know if you are using AI to write your unhelpful content.
So we think that there's sort of an inherent underlying part of the algorithm, part of the machine learning that has been sort of trained by definition to prefer human written content over AI content.
Totally. Right. And that, because it's literally what machines are, it's what machines are built for.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. So this is the helpful content update. Now it's called the review update because it's about all review content, not just product review content. And there I demonstrate you are knowledgeable about what you're reviewing, show you are an expert, provide evidence as visual, audio, or other links of your own experience with what you are reviewing to support your expertise and reinforce the authenticity of the review. Great. So all the things we've just been talking about. By the way, this goes into EEAT, right? So Google has expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Added another one for experience, right? Why is that, by the way? Because experience is something that the AI can't do. I have actually tried this out before. I asked ChatGPT, write a prompt, write a response about what it's like to drive a Ford Mustang for the first time. Of course, it said, I'm a machine. I can't do that. And then all you need to do is trick it to think, no, but pretend you're me. And what it would be like if you were a human and you were driving a Ford Mustang for the first time. And that's like, oh, okay, I can do that. Why didn't you lie to me the first time? And then it writes this pretty generic thing of, oh yeah, I stepped on the gas and the 200 horsepower really took me flying quickly. Like, you didn't, come on, it's obvious you didn't drive a damn car, right? And I'll give you an example from an actual update that I was analyzing. This is the February 2022. Again, terrible years. 3 product review update. What you're basically looking at some data from SEMrush, some secret sauce data because I consult for them, and there are a bunch of sites that went up and there are a bunch of sites that went down. And one of the things that I like to do is take a look for the keyword. In this case, the keyword is portable dog carrier. These are all pages reviewing portable dog carriers. And I kind of like to profile the content of the page to see like what's different about the content on one page that it went up in rankings versus the other page where it went down in rankings or stayed the same or whatever it is. So this is from a page that lost rankings. And you can see like they write things like pros, heavy duty material stands up to wear and tear. Airline friendly, doubles as a pet bed. Let me ask you a quick question. Like, do I actually have to use the product to know that? Or can I just read the user manual? Rhetorical question. I can just read the user manual. Check this one out. By the way, that's their ranking. They like, boom, down. By the way, I don't know why I'm hiding. It was Reader Digest. It was like not good. This site is redonkulous. So they have a pros and cons, right? TSA compliant, larger than the average top opening, also things that you can write. But then they wrote con, bag has smell after unpacking. Hey, either you're super creative and you're lying, in which case you like deserve an award, or you actually use the damn thing. You're like, this thing smells funky, right? And we've all been there, right? You open something like that's like a weird smell. That it's obvious. Like Google's able to profile this stuff, right? It's not like it's not terribly hard. Or if you want a really easy case of profile, look at this page did, right? Whole bunch of first person language, we, our, or second person language. One of our favorite features, or we clip them onto the bungee tether and open it up. So our cat, by the way, like I'll tell you, like it's good for users. It's so good. I think that I thought this was so good that for our Wix has an SEO learning hub, wix.com/SEO/learn. We have tons of great content about SEO, so check that out. That's just a plug. I'm just plugging for plug in there. I'm sorry. And one of the things we talked about is, you know what? Like I was reading, we have a post about rank tracking, why you need to track rank. You know what? After reading this, what would take the content further if the person who was writing the content actually said, you know what? Like, here's my experience with rank tracking. Like, here's when I like it, don't like it. Here's a case where it worked out well for me. Here's a case where it didn't work out well for me. That first person experience, forget the SEO thing for a second. It does make the content much better. But from an SEO machine learning point of view, it's super easy. Super easy for a machine learning property to figure out our we versus just generic third person language. So that's how I think that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So again, just to recap, there's sort of an inherent machine learning layer here that we think is fairly good at understanding human generated content versus AI content. And then I think there's also another sort of meta point here, Morty, that you touched on, which is all of these other things, right? So like the helpful content update and looking at sort of the aggregate content on your website and its overall quality is also sort of a factor that is aimed at this, right? So again, if you're using AI to generate tons and tons of like low quality content, that is in and of itself sort of a way for Google to discount or devalue AI content, even if it can't necessarily say this is definitely AI, this is definitely human.
Right. And that's where I think what Google's saying is actually, the true, like we're not actually going after AI or not AI, whether it's helpful or unhelpful, but like their intention though is AI. But yeah, again, like machine learning properties are literally built to do this. And look, the way machine learning works is they train it on a data set, and then whatever aligns with that profile is good, and whatever doesn't align is bad. And we know this like topically, right? If Google takes a look at something that says topically, like, if I'm going to write like, go to the Yankees game, what does it mean to go to a Yankees game? Well, it means you have to give directions. You need to talk about ticket pricing. You need to talk about concessions. You need to talk about, whether or not you can wear the Red Sox jerseys or you're going to get your ass kicked, like all those kind of things. If your page, Google knows topically that that's what's related semantically to going to a Yankees game. If your site doesn't deal with that, then you don't align to the profile, and that's bad. Same with language structure. And that's what Gary's saying. Like, they're training it on natural content. So AI content inherently is out of the profile.
Interesting.
It's not like magic. It's just the way it works.
Right.
It's magic.
Finn did have a follow-up question, which was basically, are there any tools right now that you know of that can determine AI versus human-generated content? Sort of outside of whatever Google has access to.
I use them all the time. I don't remember their names. And I'll tell you, I will literally tell you what I do when I forget their names. Glenn Gabe has a great article listing all the tools, and I'll literally Google Glenn Gabe AI tool detector list or something like that, and it'll come up on the GSQI blog. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's like, sorry. Again,
all good. No, all good.
Okay.
Yeah. I will say, just anecdotally, I've also, they're very hit or miss, right? So
yeah, they're hit or miss.
Also, it's also an evolving tech, I think. So I don't think anybody has it quite 100% yet.
No, some of them are really cool. Like, they'll tell you like which words are the words that they were like they were pointing out that like made them trigger to think that like, it was AI content. Some of them are very cool that way. Okay. I kind of touched on this. I'm going to touch on like super briefly, but EEAT is kind of a framework for creating content in the SEO space. I don't want to go into the whole background. Like, is it part of the algorithm? Is it not part of the algorithm? There's a whole bunch of conversation around that because I'm like way over time probably at this point. But like one of the things that's going to differentiate your content is experience. I mentioned that before. I kind of ran through the examples, but I just want to make a point about experience, and that we understand obviously that experience is going to be something that's going to differentiate your content from AI, because AI can't experience anything. It's not sentient. It's not anything. It's not a machine learning. It's freaking learn. It's a language model. Okay, it just takes language, spins it out, and spits it back out. That's all it does. Okay, it's not smart. Experience, though, inherently is not good. Experience is only good if it's helpful. So going back to my baseball, I Googled, like, what's it like to go to a baseball game with kids? A Yankees game with kids, rather. And the first example I have, good for kids. A baseball game at Yankees Stadium is a good time for all baseball fans of all ages, and kids will no doubt get a kick out of the quintessential American experience. That doesn't help me do anything. Great, you went to a baseball game. Very nice. The other page said the Bronx is not ideal for families looking to spend time before or after a game. The neighborhood around the stadium has a few bars. My suggestion would be to spend your time inside the stadium if possible. While Stan's Bar is fun to meet up with friends before a game, it gets packed quickly and have overpriced drinks. Like, that is helpful, right? Like, okay, if I'm going with my kids, is there kid-friendly stuff? Is there a bunch of bars out there? There's a bunch of bars. Like, I would love to take my 5-year-old drinking, but I would probably get arrested. So just like know, if you're talking from a content marketing point of view and an SEO point of view, not all experience is equal. And just having experience on your page doesn't mean anything. Okay. What do you actually do as a content marketer to thrive in the age of AI content? We kind of touched on a few of these already, but let's talk about the SGE real quick. Okay. So Google and I/O back in March, Google I/O is an event where they announce a whole bunch of cool shit every year. So check it out every year, and not just search, like everything. And Google talked about its search generative experience, which is called SGE. Why? Because we have to have another acronym. We can't just call it like the AI box. No, it's the SGE. And what it does is you search for something. In this case, this is Google's example from I/O. They were saying, something along the lines of, I want to hike Bryce Canyon or the Grand Canyon. I'm not sure which is better for pets and kids. Something like that. And it wrote an answer. But if you notice, it also has 3 organic result cards next to it. The question is, how do you want to get your site there? It's like, oh, this is going to kill traffic. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not the first time Google put up a box for search results that knocked down all of the organic results, made all of the organic results essentially worthless, and often didn't have any organic links there. It's called the local pack. Not the first time this has happened. But in this particular case, Google is showing 3, if not more, organic results in the form of these little cards in there. The question is, how do you get in there? What does that mean from a content marketing and SEO point of view? It's actually more from a content marketing point of view than SEO point of view, my personal opinion. Google is basically taking the websites that are strong as an entity, the strong identity around either all of the entire query, which is, hiking Bryce Canyon versus the Grand Canyon with kids and pets, or one of those particular aspects, like, hiking Bryce Canyon with kids. If my website is all about Bryce Canyon with kids, I probably have, and I'm the super authority on Bryce Canyon hiking with kids. You are going to show up here, and it probably has less to do with your title tags and your headers and just overall site quality, overall site identity. Are you the go-to source here? So from an SEO point of view, from a content marketing point of view, what you want to do is you want to be the entity around the queries that are important to you and the topics that are important to you. By the way, Google does have an expanded view of this, where what it does is it breaks down each line, or really each subtopic, and then shows organic results related to each subtopic. So you not only want to be the entity, but you want to be the specific entity. The era of casting a wide net and trying to bring in much is over. It's kind of been over for a long time, but now it's really over, or it's really going to be over. Because what Google's going to do is show, okay, you can bring your dog on the paved sections of both the rim trail or the whatever. The pages that it's showing here are sites that are super strong around Bryce Canyon and pets. So it's all about being specific. Niche content, I believe, is going to win the day. Niche content is going to be specific. It's entity-based content. It's entity optimized. Meaning it's topically optimized. And it's also based on more than likely actual experience and expertise. So it's an easy place to be differentiated from all the AI content, all the AI crap that's going to be out there. So I do think even with this AI box that's coming, there's going to be a place to win, but you want to be focused. You really want to cover that topic well. You really want to build identity around that topic, and you really want to be specific.
That's super helpful, Morty. And real quick, I just want to mention, we actually did just last week, we had a great session on SGE specifically. So if you want to dive more into that topic, check that out on our YouTube channel. But I'm gonna propose a couple of sort of action items or takeaways from this, Morty, and correct me if you think something different. But what I'm hearing here is, possible action items to become more entity, become more of the entity, or become more sort of topically authoritative. One is sort of our the idea of topic clusters, right? Building out content that is sort of fully covers a topic from multiple different angles, having specific authoritative pages on sort of all the different facets of that topic. Two, it sounds like sort of culling or maybe like reducing the overall size of your library if you have a bunch of stuff that is sort of topically not relevant. And then I think three is just sort of improving the quality again of sort of every page on your site or every page on that specific topic, in line with the idea of the HCU. Thoughts on those as sort of takeaways or action items?
The second point is really a great point. I've been talking about this like for a long time, and Google actually has come out and talked about this, where like you want to have strong site identity around a particular topic. It doesn't mean, by the way, like Wikipedia talks about tons of topics, because their identity is not the topic per se. Their identity is all of the topics is their identity, right? So it doesn't mean you can't cover multiple topics necessarily, but if you have a website about, I don't know, Bryce Canyon and pets, you shouldn't be talking about Derek Jeter, for example. Like, that makes no sense. Unless Derek Jeter did a hike at Bryce Canyon and you have a whole write-up about his hike at Bryce Canyon. It's like, that's fine. But yeah, I really like that last point there, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead.
No. Totally. Go for it.
I was just gonna say one of the things that we're advising clients on right now is sort of all in line with that, which is a smaller, tighter library of higher quality content is sort of the direction that we want to move.
And this is the incentive cycle that I was talking about before. Like, this is what we should have been doing for a long time. Google has actually been nudging us to do this for a long time. We just haven't really been listening. But like now we're gonna really have to do it. So the incentive cycle is changing. I'm actually excited about that part, which is weird. The last thing is I want to talk about brand marketing, because I love talking about brand marketing, because I do a ton of brand marketing. But I think brand marketing is going to play a significant role in SEO because of AI content, and that's because you're going to have to differentiate yourself. I'll tell you, like, whoops, wrong way. For example, we're writing up a new landing page for a new SEO offering that we have, and I was doing some research about like what's out there. How are other landing pages addressing this? You know, I'm being a good marketer, content marketer, brand marketer. I'm doing my research, and most of the content I found out there was like this: perfectly personalized every time at scale, a powerful powerhouse combo for your content and digital asset management needs. By the way, if you want to know where these websites come from, I'm not telling you, but you can just Google it. E-commerce for a new era. Everything you need for growth. Like, oh my God. Like, seriously? First, like, leave it just from a pure brand marketing point of view. I always think like the thing you're trying to do as a brand marketer is not get them down the funnels, not show they can is try to get them to identify with you as a brand. Like you understand me and I understand you. We're on the same existential plane. We're on the same team here. I'm with you. Now tell them about your product. None of this does any of that, but also it's such a bunch of fluff. Like, what the hell are you? E-commerce for a new era? Oh, what the hell does that even mean? Seriously, what does that mean? I think all of this stuff is going to go away because like in 5 years from now, this is going to sound like a used car commercial. Like, come on down to Bob's, get your... People are going to be focusing on natural conversational tones in their content because it's going to be a way of differentiating that content from AI written content. And you saw it before with the product review content. When I used it, it had a bad smell. Like all of that much more conversational kind of way of writing is going to be a way to differentiate and to position yourself, your company, your client, whoever it is, as being different from all the AI crap that's out there. And it's going to have an impact on this kind of stuff where this kind of stuff is going to be like what we look like a Facebook ad now. Like, whoa. How did you know I was talking about buying a new rug? Like creepy as hell. Something smells weird here. I don't like this. It's going to be, I don't like this. Like you're not talking to me. You're talking at me. It's very generic. It's very fluffy. It's not conversational. I don't feel like you get me. That like feeling like you get me in an era where there's going to be tons, I mean, literally tons of content from AI. People are going to use this like it's like water is going to come into effect. And I think it's my last point from an SEO point of view. Yeah, it's right. Hallelujah is right. I think what's going to happen is like SEOs are going to have to mature a little bit because this stuff is great for keywords, right? Oh, all right. Like, I'll like, you know, everything you need for growth, like, you know, like whatever it is, like, you know, like you can stuff a keyword in here real easily, like e-commerce for a new era of digital marketing platforms. Like I could easily add in my keyword there, right? Like no problem. I got that. I can do for each one of these in like 3 seconds flat, right? A powerhouse combo for your content and digital asset management needs for agency client management. Like I can just stuff keywords in there all day long. But if you're talking conversationally, it's going to be much harder to put a keyword in there. And it's becoming, going to think it's becoming like less important to put the keyword in there in that way. And the way we optimize a page is going to have to change because the content itself is just not going to allow us to optimize a page the same way. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm done.
Awesome. Well, first of all, Mordy, thanks for walking us through this. I know there's a ton of stuff here that and everything is sort of connected, which I think is part of the challenge here. So first of all, let me just say we've got, 12 minutes or so left on our stream here. So first of all, if you have questions for Mordy or you want us to dive into any of these particular topics, pop those into the chat. We'll get to them. I just want to talk about sort of what you were just saying there with the brand marketing and going back to that idea of like the incentive cycle. I think the way that I am thinking about this sort of new era or these shifts and these changes that are happening is that I think we've all gotten sort of too good at playing the game, right? And so now Google again has to sort of shift, as you said, the incentives or whatever it is, they've got to shift back. We've got to see the pendulum sort of swing back. So instead of just, hey, if you churn out all the stuff with the right keywords in the right spot, you hit the bingo card and you go to the top of the SERPs, Google has to get better at saying like, no, like which content is actually good? What do people actually want to see? And again, we're seeing that from both sides, right? As SEOs, we know the quality of the content that we put out is not always the best, but we play the game. We check the boxes to try to win. And on the user side, we also experience that where we search for something and we say, all these results suck. Where's the actual good content?
Yeah, it basically, and I think like Google's been trying to like push this for years, and AI like was at that critical moment where it was like do or die, because if Google can't figure this out, and if we're all going to spit a bunch of AI content, and that's what's going to rank, Google's in hot water if that happens. I think it might happen initially, because like things have to adjust. All this content's going to come out. Is Google going to be able to pick it up? It can't here, it can't there. It'll probably do a decent job. It'll be all sorts of gaps, and you'll probably see people like, oh, my AI content's ranking real well. If you search for best SEO podcast, it's a keyword I track really well because I have an SEO podcast, right? If you put the title best and actually experimented with this, and you have best SEO podcast in your title tag on your headers, you'll rank better because there's just a gap in that algorithm. So just because you see someone on Twitter saying, oh, look at my AI content, doesn't mean that that's the algorithm as a whole, which means like there's a gap there, in my opinion. But Google's going to have to figure that out. Otherwise, users who are already complaining are going to be complaining way more and be like, I'm going to go to Bing.
Yeah. I think that's just such a great like macro point that, I've been saying basically since ChatGPT rolled out and everybody started freaking out about, oh my God, we should use this to write all of our content. It's like,
I fired my entire content team.
Right. This is an existential threat to Google. Like they obviously cannot afford to not figure out how to determine the difference, right? They have to be able to solve for this. And so, yeah, it just makes total sense. A couple of questions. So Michael has sort of an interesting question. This is, I think, its own deep rabbit hole, but basically, how do you see this playing out, Mordy, over time? Right, we've got AI that's being trained on content that in the very near future or right now is also being written by AI, and it becomes sort of this snake eating itself. How does that play out? What impact does that have?
That's a great question. I think let's first off, Google's already trained its models on natural. They're focusing on natural content. They'll do things like, for example, John Mueller has gone on and said that we look at how content is supposed to be written for a particular vertical and basically profile to see if your content fits that. Like, what does that mean? Let's take, for example, like, I don't know, I'm writing about heart attack prevention. And on another page, I'm writing about like, the Steelers, the football team. My tone is going to be totally different. What's acceptable is totally different. If I'm cursing my ass off in the Steelers page, that's fine, right? I'm angry. I'm a sports fan. Like, dropping an F-bomb on a page about heart attack prevention is probably not what you want. But what Google does is there's knowns. There's when you're training a language model, there have to be knowns. Like, what are your givens? Things like the Mayo Clinic, Harvard Health, the Cleveland Clinic, those are knowns. Those like the NHS, the CDC, those are knowns that Google's looking at and saying, okay, this is the baseline for this vertical, for this type of content. We're training on this. So It's all, if Google's able to keep up with, making sure that what it's training on is high quality and there's not being fed into with this rest of this crap, then they should be able to do a good job. I think they will do a good job. I think they're going to be extremely cautious about this problem because that it is an absolute problem. And you've seen it pop up before. The language models have tons of bias, right? If I search for wedding, right? I'm Jewish. I don't get a Jewish wedding, right? I get a Christian wedding because that's how Google understands wedding, because in the US, like, most of the people are Christian. So that's the wedding that Google's going to show in the pictures. There already is a ton of bias. There is a ton that Google has to do better at, but it also means they're already keeping an eye on it, most likely.
And I think that the other side of that coin, right? So like sort of the ChatGPTs of the world, do you think that they're going to struggle? The content is basically going to get worse as it's being trained on content that's generated by itself.
I don't know what the heck's going to. There's an article on Search Engine Journal they mentioned earlier saying, the content's getting worse. I don't think that, first off, as I mentioned, I don't think the content's getting any worse. I think like the honeymoon is over, right? I think what we've fundamentally done as humans is this, like, that is so cool, therefore it must be good. Right? I don't know. Like, imagine I told you I built a car out of my refrigerator. Like, that is so cool. Right? Now imagine sitting in your refrigerator driving down the highway like a total moron. Okay? Actually using it in the real world is different from that is so cool. Yeah, I can write a poem about like, whatever, about Barry Schwartz, whatever.
Shout out to Barry.
I had AI write a poem for Barry's birthday in the style of a romance novel. Happy birthday, Barry. Because I knew he would appreciate that. And that's cool, right? It's super cool. But does it mean that it's a good poem? Those are two different questions. And I think we're starting to wake up like, wait a second, I fired my entire content team. This is so cool. But it's not actually good. And then we're like, we don't want to say to ourselves like, oh, like I got that all wrong. So it must be that the AI is getting worse. I think it's only going to get better. I think what they're going to do is only going to improve. The nature of these things is to inherently improve. To answer your question.
Right. Yeah, and I think ultimately it is a little bit of an arms race, right? But I think that's what they've always predicted, right? Is that AI becomes sort of this exponential growth scenario, right? And so maybe ChatGPT gets better and Google gets better, and there's sort of a back and forth on how we figure those things out. But I just want to hit on that point really quick because I think you raised such a good sort of macro point again there, Morty, which is that I think that so much of this conversation is shaped around like, how will Google ever know? Like, we'll be able to clearly write AI content and they'll never know. But I think like anybody who spent any amount of time actually reading the content that's produced by AI, it's pretty obvious when it's I mean, the quality is just clearly not that, like, it just does not have that depth of knowledge that a human, as you said, like with first person experience and all those things that we're being told are important. AI does not have that.
Nope. And again, it's great for writing a snippet. But what is a spark plug?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Another question here. So Travis is asking about going back to SGE. Any other takeaways or action items there in terms of thinking about how we try to optimize for that reality?
So first off, that's a great profile avatar pick, Travis. People have been talking about this for a long time. We had a Cindy Crum on the Service Up podcast talking about thinking about keyword research from an entity point of view. And like Cindy's been talking about this for years and years and years. Follow Cindy Crum on Twitter. She's amazing. Super brilliant. I think that like my final takeaway would be to like, if you're going to start researching topic research, keyword research, whatever it is, think about it from an entity point of view, like, and try to break it down. Like, Google's had something called Google Mom. It's kind of meant to do this. I don't want to get into all of that. Just really, really quick, because I'm running out of time. Let's go to the query, like go to Yankees game, like we talked about before. If you're trying to optimize for SGE, which means you're trying to be identified as a topical authority around this thing, you need to think, how do I break down go to? What does it mean to go to? And because you can just look at, all right, go to game, like in Google, what Google basically offers you now, like buy tickets. Okay, but if you really break down go to, you start, as I mentioned before, right, getting into like directions, seating, different food options. Can I bring my own food? What's the experience like for kids? Can I bring my dog? Again, like, can I wear a Red Sox jersey without being afraid for my life? Like, can I sit in the bleachers? Is it a good idea to sit in the bleachers? All of these different things of breaking down that topic. That's how you optimize for it. And it really means being good at empathizing with the needs of your audience, because that's the only way you're going to be able to break it down like that.
And then if I can just add a point there too, I think like when we think about, as you said, keyword research, and, people are, I think at this point, more familiar with the idea of like topic clusters and sort of, building a more comprehensive library of content around topic. But I think we still sometimes get stuck where it's like, you don't think about all these things that, as you said, they may not immediately seem relevant, but once you dig into the topic, it's clear that it is, right? So as you just said, right, like, should I sit in the bleachers at the Yankees game or whatever, might not seem like it's part of the topic cluster around go to the Yankees game, but when you really understand the topic at a micro level, it is. It's obviously part of that equation. And so I think getting past sort of just grouping keywords that are, sort of look similar or have like a phrase match and actually thinking about the topic holistically, I think is the key thing there. Yeah.
And there are tools that can help you. Like, SEMrush has the topic research tool. It's good at that. Also, Asked is a great tool. It's a freemium model, so you can use it for free for a little while, right? And it breaks down people also ask in Google, like multiple like steps, and you can really start to profile that and get a sense of like, what are people asking for, what's topically related, what's not topically related, and start to really parse out the topic. So that's also a great tool if you want to get a little bit of help. Sometimes you do need a little bit of help.
Great. We've just got like a minute left here, so I just want to try to fly through these questions if we can. John is saying he runs an agency making creative websites for brands for medtech. So in terms of that sort of topical authority, should he be focused on website design, digital marketing or marketing for medtech? You know, like what's sort of the level of topical authority?
But I don't know the particular site in question, but like, you know, I'll just say like very high level really quickly. It's not just that, okay, I talk about this topic, I'm going to talk about this topic. It's also like, what's the angle on the topic? Like I was looking at an HVAC site recently, right? Who are they selling to? Are they selling to consumers? Or are they selling to, say, property management companies? And the way you address that topic is going to be different based on the audience. So it's a topical authority to a specific audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, you know, just to put a point on this, it's not one topic, right? You can be an authority on multiple topics within sort of the same umbrella, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. When we say like one topic, like we mean like semantically one topic. Like if I'm talking about a podcast, I could talk about microphones because you need a microphone to podcast.
Yeah. So I think, John, the answer to your question is that you can sort of target all of these as long as you're sort of they're relevant to the business that you're doing. What you probably don't want to be is the authority on all kinds of website design, because that wouldn't be relevant to your business anyway, right? Like you want to be the authority more specifically on medtech and how websites relate, or how marketing, you know, digital marketing for medtech companies. But it's not 100% one or the other, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll just say final question for Michael. I think this is a good, like, sort of hypothetical closer. Do you think anyone's going to unseat Google for search anytime soon based on everything that's been happening?
Probably not. Like you saw, like Bing came out, right? If you go through the timeline here, Bing's AI chat experience came out first before Google's, and it was great. It cited, and then Google had an event in London where everyone thought, okay, Google's going to respond. Google's going to respond to Bing because everyone loved Bing's. Bing's was the best. And Google came out and they did a whole thing of like, you know, whatever they even talked about. It was like, oh man, what a flop. Google's done. Google's finished, right? Then Google got its stuff together and it went to red alert and it came out with Google I/O back in March and it wiped the floor with what Bing was doing. So there might be like peaks and valleys in all of this. I would never discount something that has such a strong association to search like Google does. I think the only way anyone's ever going to unseat Google, and I wrote a blog post about this on the Semrush blog, why the 10 blue links don't matter, not like why the 10 blue links need to go, something like that. A couple of years ago, I talked about this there if you want to get into a little bit more. And someone needs to create a new model of search, a new way of searching. It's like doing what Google's doing, no one's going to beat them at that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you create a new construct that's better than the current construct, then you'd be the first one to do that. Good luck to you.
For sure. Awesome. Well, Mordy, we're a couple minutes over here, so I want to wrap things up. But first of all, just let me say thank you so much for joining us again. Real quick, sorry, before I forget, Finn, I see your question about I think it was Cindy who you're asking about her Twitter handle. I'll get that for you in Cindy Crumb. Yeah, I'll get that. It's okay. I'll get it to you in Tofu in the Slack because I know you're in there, Finn, and we'll follow up there. But again, Mordy, thank you so much for taking the time to unpack all of this with us. Thanks to everyone who joined us today. Any final thoughts? Anything else, Mordy, that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, tons, but we don't have time. So
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Well, again, make sure you follow Mordy on Twitter. You can find him at Mordy Oberstein. If you haven't already, you can follow me at Tyler Hakes. And if you're not a member of Tofu, join us there as well. Yesoptimist.com/tofu. Again, Mordy, thanks so much for your time today. And thanks all for joining us, and talk to you soon.